Hey guys, welcome back to the Lovin Dubai show. Today's guest is Peter Turner, a high performance coach and CEO of To Be Limitless, who helps some of the biggest names in Dubai, like Emirates and HBC, unlock their full potential. So, if you've ever felt stuck in your career or you want to improve your performance, he's here to help us up our game, which we need on this Monday morning. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Honestly, I'm so excited for the interview. So my first question is, what inspired you to become, a mental mindset changing coach? What's the mentorship that you had to change to become one?
Well, my own personal story, I used to be a school teacher. We were just talking about that. And but I felt like my career was kind of static and it wasn't progressing and it wasn't going where I wanted it to go. My wife, she was really thriving in her career and she had an executive coach. And I used to watch her and think, my goodness, what is it that she's doing that I'm not doing? And that was the thing. She had somebody in her corner helping her grow. So I thought I wanted a piece of that. So I went and found myself a coach and I ended up chatting to this crazy Australian guy called Mick Todd. And that really is when it all changed for me.
Wow, interesting. And what was the biggest, because I've spoken to a lot of teachers, as we said earlier, I was a teacher, and sometimes people want to get out of their career. So what was the biggest mental shift you personally had to make that jump?
Yeah, well, it's at the cornerstone of what we do, actually. And I remember I sat down with Mick Todd. It was day one of my coaching journey with him. I was in the Western lobby down in Minisiahi, and he said, why have you come here, Peter? What's this all about? And I said, I want to grow, I want to take myself to the next level, and I finally want to fix my weaknesses that will help me break through. And he said to me, Pete, if you want to get to the next level, it's not your weaknesses we need to fix, it's your strengths that we need to develop. And that for me was just a total paradigm shift, because forever I was taught that my greatest opportunity for development was my weaknesses. My strengths were over here, they were important, but really it was if I can fix my weaknesses, that will take me to the next level. And he said, you got it backwards, Peter. It's your strengths that we need to develop. And that really was the moment when it all changed for me. So every day I would wake up in the morning and think, right, how can I put my strengths to work today? And everything kind of changed for me in that moment.
Love that.
What is the link between mindset and success? And as well, you just said that, you wake up every day in the morning and you have you're thinking away. And are there any, let's say, daily things that we can do or habits that we can do, incorporate in our day-to-day life that can maybe change our mindset?
Yeah, well, that's a big part of what we do. There's two ways of changing your life. You can either change what you're doing or you can change the way you think about what you're doing. So mindset work is a big part of what we do. One of those I've already shared with you, the shift in focusing on what's wrong with you. Or if you're a leader, the shift of focusing on what's wrong with your people to a shift of focusing on what's right with them, because then that can unlock those people. So the first one for yourself is to think about what's right about you. The other one is to actually maybe paradoxically, when you're in a performance environment, to actually stop thinking about yourself at all and actually just focus on what's happening in front of you. That for me is one of the biggest transformations. So if anybody struggles with things like public speaking or networking or social interactions, a lot of people are worried about how they are appearing in those moments, and that just creates lots of performance anxiety for people. And the best thing that you can do in a situation like that is to turn the spotlight around, focusing on the people that you're with, and then ask them lots of questions, like you're doing with me, to find out about them. And actually in that moment, lots of your performance inhibitors start to drift away because you're sort of in the darkness, and all of the people that you're speaking to suddenly come into the light. So yeah, shifting the focus away from you and onto other people, particularly in a performance environment, is a great way of improving how you show up in the moment.
I love that a lot. Many people struggle with limiting beliefs. How can we as individuals recognize these and tips for overcoming them?
Yeah, well, pay attention to the language that you use and pay attention to the language that other people use as well. So we've got a piece of work called Pits and Pets. So a pit is a performance inhibiting thought and a pet is a performance enhancing thought. You actually see it show up a lot when you listen to athletes, high performing athletes being interviewed after games. Quite often they're sort of being invited to use performance inhibiting thoughts. So the journalist might say, do you think the referee was the problem here? And then that's a performance inhibiting thought, to blame the referee. Whereas a really high performing athlete will think of a performance enhancing response to that. And they'll think about the things that they could have done to improve the situation rather than complaining about what somebody else was doing. So just changing some of the language that we use that serves us and that enables us rather than inhibits us and blocks us. A classic example from Carol Dweck, the famous growth mindset researcher, just putting the word yet at the end of a sentence can be really powerful. So I can't do that yet. And you put yet at the end and it certainly opens it up that maybe with a bit of effort, you can change that situation for yourself.
Yet.
That is very interesting. I'll be mentioning that. I'll be adding yet to every end of a sentence.
Yeah.
Of course, I think you know that how the job market in the UAE is very, I'd say, complicated, and a lot of people are actually trying to get a job or they are searching for a job, and searching for a job can be daunting. And in light of all of that, you know, keeping a positive mindset with like a lot of rejections, some people cannot even get a job, some people cannot get even interviews, and it can maybe drain them in a way, and it would be very hard to keep like a positive mindset as people are looking for a job. So what do you think can be like done? How can someone stay positive when they are like, you know, like looking for a job or like through their job search?
Yeah, it's a really difficult challenge, and you know, the reality is that maybe they won't get that next job interview. Maybe they won't succeed in that next moment. And actually, having a positive mindset is important, but also having an acceptance mindset is really, really important too. And if you're so tied up and think that this next job interview has to be the one, and you really believe, and this is going to be the moment it's going to happen for me, then that can actually create even more pressure on you to perform and be at your best in that moment. So having an acceptance mindset as well, just being able to let go a little bit. So when you go into that moment, you can just be a little bit more relaxed. And then maybe when you show up like that, you might actually ultimately have a better chance of having a better impact in the moment. But yeah, an acceptance mindset is a nice little shift there. A positive mindset is important, but just being prepared for this next moment. You know what? It might not work out, but that's okay. And I'll just keep persevering. It can create a little bit more resilience.
I wonder if this leads us on to our next question, because we were talking about someone who doesn't get a job and then how can they overcome that. But generally, people stuck in negative thought loops. So you mentioned things like adding yet to at the end of a sentence and an acceptance mindset. But are there any advice for people out there who just kind of like in a rigmarole of negativity? It's quite common.
Yeah, it is. Well, here's the interesting thing. What I've noticed about the most high performing people that I work with, and all I do is I spend my time sitting, listening to successful people tell me what makes them successful. I sit and ask them questions all day. And one of the things that I notice about those people is, you used the word mindset at the beginning of the conversation, and we had this idea of a positive mindset. I introduced the concept of an acceptance mindset, but also an opportunity mindset. And there really is opportunity everywhere. And for so many people, it's staring them in the face. But because they put a barrier in front of them, they just can't see it. But there really is opportunity, especially here. Can you think of anywhere in the world where there's more opportunity staring you in the face? So if they can just open their eyes and look up and realize that actually I've got opportunity all over the place. Sometimes I'll ask my coachees questions and they'll put blockers in front of them and say, oh, there's just, the market's saturated. Oh, there's just no opportunity. Oh, that would never be for me. And actually just that language is blocking them, but there really is opportunity. If you go through your contact list on your phone and you will see opportunity. Like, this really is a place where relationships can make it happen for us. So who do you know? Who do you know that knows somebody that's interesting? And what's beautiful about the UAE and Dubai in particular is that, you're not too far removed from somebody that could make a difference for you. I'll just add one more thing to that. I often hear people when they're looking for a job and they are out of employment where they'll say, right, I need to lean into my network now. And there's something a little bit transactional about that. It was like, well, now I need you, I'll reach out to you. So we really encourage people to think less about network and much more about community. And community is about reaching out to people when you don't need anything. So reach out to people when you don't need them. And then you'll notice that when it is your turn and you're in need, you might be the first person that they think about.
Right. I love these conversations because they should be obvious, but when you don't have the conversations, you need to be reminded of them regularly to kind of train your mindset in a certain way.
So, like, for example, like, I mean, of course, Casey and I, we're so lucky to be doing what we love. But some people, they are stuck in their career, and they think in a mindset of like, you know what, I can't, because like if I am gonna leave, I'm not gonna find something that I really like, and they are stuck in like, you know, like that is like, I'm safe here, I get the salary here, so I'm good here, and they tend to like not want to move forward. So for people who are stuck in their career for any reason that they are stuck in their career for, what can they do to move forward and maybe find the career that they love?
Yeah, do you know what? You've just created a little metaphor in my mind. The situation that you described is they've got their eyes in the rear view mirror. They're kind of looking backwards and they're holding on to that thing that they've got. And as long as they're in that space, they're not really going to be able to get their eyes looking forward to all of the opportunity and the potential that is in front of them. And there's three blockers to change. One of them is frustration. One of them is fear, and one of them is judgment. All of those things will stop you from accelerating forward with real energy. But the antidote to fear is courage. The antidote to frustration is curiosity. And the antidote to, what was the other one that I said?
Judgment.
Judgment is curiosity. So if you can get more curious, if you can get more courageous, and if you can get more excited, those three things will be the antidote to frustration, fear, and judgment. So getting your eyes out of the rearview mirror and being able to let go and look forward with curiosity, excitement, and courage. And maybe you just have to pull the ripcord. Maybe you have to make a courageous decision and then see what's going to happen in front of you.
We know that you work a lot with leaders, and I wonder what are some of the common problems that you see in leaders today, for example, imposter syndrome, and how you can help them claw out of that.
Imposter syndrome comes up a lot, and I'll give you a couple of little biases that I see a lot that happen with leaders in organizations. Firstly, the first thing to recognize, if you're a lead or a line manager in an organization, your number one job is to get the best out of people. That's your job. And a lot of people haven't fully embraced that idea. They feel that sort of people management is in their way of achieving this other goal, but actually your goal is to get the best out of people. So that's the first thing I would say. But there are two biases that stop people from growing. One of them is the opposite of imposter syndrome. So this bias is what we call a self-serving bias. So when something successful happens, they say, oh, it was because of me, it was because I was so fantastic. And when something bad happens, they say, oh, it was because of the market, or it was because of something else. That stops people from growing. A lot of men suffer from that one. The other one is what we call a self-effacing bias, and this is where imposter syndrome comes in. And a self-effacing bias does the complete opposite. When a success happens, they say, oh, it was because of my team, it was because of other people, it was because I got lucky. And when a failure happens, they say it was because of me. Now, both of those biases stop people from progressing. And typically, when we look at the research, a lot of women suffer from the imposter self-effacing bias, and a lot of men suffer from the self-serving bias. Both of them get in the way of growth and performance. But actually, what we want to be able to do is just take a more pragmatic approach to when we have a success or a failure, recognize the role that we played in it. And some of it will be external, some of it will be internal, and just take a really open and honest view about our role in that success or failure. And as I said before, one of the most powerful things for unlocking confidence in the moment is to stop thinking about yourself. Like if you're in a performance environment, focus your spotlights on other people, and you will find yourself being released in that moment from all of the implication that can come with the spotlight being on you.
Of course, mindset change, I think maybe implementing like these little hacks that you are saying throughout everyone's day would for sure be very beneficial. But how do you approach like long-term mindset change, in comparison to short-term mindset change? So it's more like sustainable.
Yeah, so we forget easily, don't we?
Yeah.
And growth, I often think of, if you want to change your health, you don't go to the gym on Tuesday and think, oh, I'm done now. That's it, I'm fit forever. It's a muscle, and we need to keep practicing it. And success and failure are both gradual things. They happen over time. There's nothing wrong with that chocolate croissant on Tuesday. But if you do it every day, then over time, then that's going to create a problem for you. So getting into good and effective and serving language games with yourself and with each other and practicing them regularly, that will slowly start to change the mindset for you. But it's not something that you just do on a Tuesday afternoon. It's something that you have to practice regularly over time. And the biggest thing that can make a difference for people is who you choose to spend your time with. If you spend your time with people that are in that negative language game, then you're going to join in with that game. And then over time, you're going to find yourself where you don't want to be. So choose your community wisely, and then that can really, really help.
I love these so much. I'm going to be rewatching this interview for sure. I hope you will be too. But if anyone watching would like specific advice from you or from To Be Limitless, how can they get in touch?
So we're on LinkedIn a lot. Sometimes people think, is that all we do? So you can find us on LinkedIn on the To Be Limitless page, or my personal page, which is Peter Charles Turner. And we're hosting a massive event at the W Hotel on the Palm on the 31st of October, where we're bringing our community, not our network, our community together, 400 people in a room, to just enjoy one of my favorite ideas, which is collective effervescence, that idea of bringing great people together and just enjoying the energy and the positivity of learning and growing together. So yeah, you can find us on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram as well, and our website, tobelimitless.com as well.
Thank you so much for your time and insights this morning. We really enjoyed it. And that brings us to the end of our show. Thank you, Farah.
Thank you, Casey.
And we'll see you tomorrow morning, same time, same place. Bye-bye.